Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Hope you're doing well. Today I'm actually joined by a special guest, Games on the Block, aka call him GB, and come to hang out and talk about Splinterlands and talk about, well, probably a variety of topics, plus whatever questions come up in the chat. But first and foremost, just thanks for coming by. Thanks for reaching out. Thanks for making time. I'd love to know a little bit more about your background, your story. Like, how did you get into Splinterlands even? And you have other interests with other games. Are you a developer too, or what? Did we talk about something in addition? Give me any of that. I'd love to hear all of that.
Yeah. First and foremost, yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm a big fan of your channel. Have been watching for, I don't know, probably like 3 years now. Yeah, so I think I've been playing Splinterlands for around the same time. I checked my account was created in the end of 2020, but I was playing a bunch of other games. And yeah, I'm also a developer, but more like just more recently, like trying to do something more serious. Like before, I was still working as a software developer, but not with game dev in particular. But yeah. Yeah, so with Splinterlands, I've been in crypto in general. Like I've been playing, I play like probably like 100 crypto games already. Currently I'm developing two, and they're both like in kind of like this alpha, still kind of stuck in this alpha phase. And
I'd love to know more about that, like as the conversation goes forward here. Even we talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
When did you start with YouTube? When did you start making stuff?
Very recently, a couple of months ago, I would say. Right. Yeah, I decided like, okay, like I'm gonna do this for real. Okay, like it's time to get out there, like to find more people like-minded, right? Because like again, I've been playing these games for like years, but I don't talk, I don't comment. And I know the community is super important, but I also kind of value, I would prefer to just be like invisible, let's say. But I think it's really important to be discoverable, right? So I'm thinking like, okay, I'm gonna start like YouTube channel. I think I have a lot of things to add, like, cause I on the game development side, like game design, or yeah, automation, all that kind of stuff. I think I have a lot to add. I have a lot of very unique experience that can share with people. I'm not great at doing these videos already, but I'm improving. I think soon it's gonna be good.
Yeah, man. First of all, I think there's I would say that there's so much more room for voices in something like this. I think if this is going to become what we've maybe talked about it becoming, if this is going to be like as special as I think you and I probably agree this might be, then I think we're at the beginning of something, not the middle, not the end. And so you know, there's so much room for different people to start and, like, you know, grow in participation of that conversation and push that conversation forward. And then it seemed like from the content I've seen from you, including the one video that I really zoned in on and that I'd love to talk about more here today, you've got like some like thoughts or, you know, even a vision that I personally wouldn't have come to without somebody like you speaking into it. And I think that's one of the coolest things about Splinterlands too, or blockchain gaming, where we have this like decentralized leadership through maybe DAOs or through, right? It's like there's space for people with good ideas to put forward proposals or come back forward with certain video ideas, and then it drives a certain conversation. So yeah, I think that's awesome. And on that video in particular, hey, for those who will watch this back later and maybe don't know, you did a video. I should almost pull yours up too, but I have my video here that I covered it. You did like, it's probably a 30-minute video, hey, where you were talking about kind of the bot problem, and you were talking about how Splinterlands has attempted to solve it in the past, as well as you know, why that won't work. And you gave about like 10 reasons why, you know, 10 considerations, I would say, or difficulties in dealing with it. And then you really came forward with like 2 or 3 main solutions, as far as I'm concerned, for how we could deal with it. And I kind of commented on your video and featured one of them and said called it the bot problem solved, and lots of feedback and comments. I'd love to pick at that a bit more, because I think we talked before we even went live. You know, there's maybe a clearer way for this to be addressed or spoken about. What were you trying to say with that video in a nutshell? And do you feel like maybe that was captured or revealed or communicated in like a full way, or is there a way to better do that even right now?
I think I can do it better, and I mean, I think now I can summarize in a single sentence. So the problem is there are things that humans still do better than bots, right? So if there weren't, then we would be extinct, or like we'll be like at the mercy of the machines already, right?
Yeah.
So if there are these things that humans are still better, the whole point is I'm saying like, okay, now we need to make game design decisions that focus on these things that humans still do better. That's the summary of the video, right?
Yeah.
And that the implication is that things that don't align with this, like we can't do it. Even it might suck. So in the video I gave an example. So say like you cannot make a shooter, a crypto shooter, right? Because a shooter, it's the fundamentals of the shooter is that like you're good with like aim and reflex, right? So, but that's something that the computers are a lot better than us. So that's the point. Like you cannot make a crypto game about shooters. That's the unfortunate reality. That's what I was trying to highlight. We still have a bunch of things that we are still better than computers, but yeah, we have this limited scope to build games, and that's what we need to try to do. And in the video I just gave some examples that fit in this narrow scope, but the examples in particular, they're kind of irrelevant. Like it doesn't need to be those examples. I'm just trying to give examples inside this narrow scope. And I think this is a very fundamental problem, which I don't see many people talking about, and I'm not even talking about like in game design. Even in stuff like self-driving cars, right? People saying like, we're eventually gonna solve like self-driving cars. In my opinion, you can only solve self-driving cars when you reach that point that you're better than humans in every single way, and we're screwed again. So I don't see it, and so just this self-driving is just an example of like this is a problem in many areas related with AI, not just with crypto games.
I agree. And I think you make the point in the video that one of the key features that AI is really sort of capable or uniquely gifted at will be like to brute force answers. They don't necessarily have the discernment or the wisdom that we do in terms of looking at a multitude of solutions and choosing the best possible solution. They actually just are like able to calculate so many things at once and be like, if I did this terrible idea, like everyone knows, well, probably everyone knows Super Mario. And there have been AI like versions of, there's been like testers that try and work on, essentially computer learning, and they play like Super Mario, and the game will try everything. Like the game will try and stand still until the time runs out. That's one iteration of what the computer thinks. I might as well try that. And then the game tries standing still and jumping up and down for the entire game. And then the game tries running left, which is nowhere. It's like in that game, left is the end of the world. You have to run right to make progress. And then it tries running just straight right with no jumping at all. And then it tries jumping constantly. Then it tries to run into every enemy. Then it tries all the dumbest ideas that you and I intuitively understand are not the idea. And so it has the brute force capacity to try, and without any sort of pride or without any sort of, I would say pride, because you're willing to try stupid ideas and see what happens. Whereas humans, frankly, there's tons of ideas we will never try. And sometimes we give up on things because we have too much, like we can't imagine a pathway through. But the place where we have success is where we actually understand that something is possible. And then in the middle of all the questions and sort of challenges and complications and choices, we believe we could select a certain pathway that, while maybe not optimized, might produce victory. And then we like iterating on that. And that's what Splinterlands is. That's what a game like, a collectible card game really allows, because you can choose, 1 of 6 cards or 6 of 6 cards. And, you can choose 5 different or 6 different splinters, and all that diversity is a great way of looking at and imagining there are varieties. It's like a choose your own adventure game. But there's not so much, there's a great degree of complexity with how you build a team, but there's a certain right and a certain wrong, and there's lots of medium answers. And I think the computer is willing to calculate all of the odds on all of the paths, and we can't do that. And I thought one of the most beautiful things, first of all, I wonder if you have anything to add about what I just said, but I want to say one more thing before I give you that space. I thought what your video accomplished was pointing out that is a massive distinction between humans and bots. Like they can and they will brute force all ideas, mathematically calculate percentage opportunities from every idea, the worst possible to the best possible. And as opposed to our approach, which is more discerning in advance of trying all stupid ideas, we just think, no, we'll discount those and we'll move on. It's like there's more precision through discernment versus brute force intelligence. First of all, do you think that's like a fair? That was my layperson understanding. Do you think I'm missing anything as we summarize that? Because I think that's pretty foundational for that conversation.
I mean, I think you got very close to it. You can definitely expand a bit, because, for example, brute force is not the only way. It's just one way that computers can do it well. But using your example, so in Mario, there is very little randomness, right? Like, I don't even think you need, maybe in some Mario games, you might not even need AI. If there is no random stuff, right? Like, if every time that the turtle comes at the same place, you can just code exactly like so. Frame, you're gonna, I don't know, get the mushroom.
Yeah.
So, but following your point, like, so, yeah, brute force is just one way, but, and yeah, you're right, like, compare that with Splinterlands. You don't necessarily need to brute force. It might actually be a bit difficult to brute force, because Splinterlands is complex enough. Like, there is enough, how to say, like, randomization, but you can do it somewhat easier. For example, like, if you just have a bunch of data, for example, like 20% of the matches, if I'm not mistaken, have like no rule set at all, right? It's just the standard rule set. So in that case, you don't even need to calculate. You just check the history and just pick the, I don't know, like, just choose a random of the 5 best teams, and there you go. Like, you don't even need to do like the crazy stuff. So yeah, like, I think fundamentally, like, you are right, like, and that's what we do best as humans. I think it's a lot more about this, like, prediction and understanding the situation. So for example, I think for the computer it's a lot harder to, let's say, like try to counter you, right? Like to say like, oh, I think he's gonna do like a sneak team, and if there is a sneak team, I'm gonna play this, or if you do this magic with the heal, I can do this other stuff. Maybe I'll play a card here that is good in both scenarios. Like that's the type of stuff that the computers are not so great at doing.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. So what I'm hearing you saying, and I think I agree strongly with, is like really, if we believe that humans are capable of doing some things better than robots, and I think we both do, and most people will, then we just really need to understand how do we isolate for those things. And then in isolating for those things, we can approach game design to incentivize, you know, that type of success, that type of approach, which would would amount to a reward for human thought, or it would amount to an incentive for real human participation. Because again, you know, while bots might be capable of operating in that world or in that approach or that game style, if it is predisposed to sort of if it gives an edge to real human thought and the way we approach thought, then it incentivizes real human participation. And that was your. Does that feel accurate?
That's perfect. I was gonna say, now I think you said it perfectly. I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, and I think we all. I don't know if I want to say we all agree that, but maybe we don't all agree that. I do think there's a large majority.
We don't all agree that.
Yeah.
Or else we wouldn't be having this discussion.
Yeah. I really think there is a large proportion of people that believe that that's true, though, that there is a pathway to identifying what humans do best. And then if that's so, then isolating for that will be the best game that is for human players. And your example about shooters is so key, because it's like, clearly a shooter is never going to be the one where we can have the optimized reward structure, because you're right, precise, not like approximate, but to the pixel accuracy, right? And timing and even like permanent wall hack, knowing where, right? It's just like, it just can't be. But in a game like Splinterlands, that the playing field can be evened. I thought from that place and that foundation, I really thought that one idea you poured, which I covered in this video, the bot problem solved. I really thought that one idea about creating distinct rule sets for different places within the game. So like if in the first place, in the first slot, you might artificially have one ability attributed to that first slot. So you can imagine Enrage goes on the first slot, and this is totally random. The game chooses it. It's not like predetermined. There would be a selection of abilities. They would rotate, just like rule sets rotate in the game. And first gets Enrage. The thoughtfulness that would be necessitated for maximizing the usefulness of that combination of ability in that slot would be one, entertaining from a player perspective, because you know there's a cool unique experience that I want to think through. But two, I thought you really articulated well that would complicate the number of possible outcomes in a way that make it harder for computers, because they want to look at every, like I said with the Nintendo example, the Mario example, they want to look at, they don't want to look at, but they often look at every possible choice, not just the good choices, which is more the human approach. We look at the good ones, throw out the medium ones or the terrible ones, obviously, and on the face of it. And I think, so if we were to throw abilities on slot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that are distinct, and that synergies could just be so creative, I thought that'd be a fun game, and also leaning into what we've already talked about there. Do you still stand by like that being a possible solution, that if it was ever desirable to the game, that would be helpful? Or have you since rethought things about that topic?
No, I mean, I think that is I would love to have that mechanic in Splinterlands. I think it's really good in multiple ways, like you were describing. I think, but before before I'm able to explain that, I just want to emphasize, and what I think people confused a little bit in the video was that there is a difference between complexities, right? Because if you just say like, oh, if you make the number of possible games greater, right? Like if you increase the complexity of the game, if you increase the number crunching requirement, you would think that this would give the edge to the computers, right?
Yeah.
But what I was trying to say is that is not necessarily the case. So that's what I'm trying to say. Is almost like there are different types of complexity. Not like every complexity is created equal. So in this example that I gave in the video of having, let's say, a double strike in the first position, that increases the, like, just you having this system of having abilities in the positions,
yes,
increases the complexity like immensely for the bots. Now it's basically like all the techniques are a lot harder to use, borderline impossible, I would say. But for humans, you still kind of rely on intuition anyway, so it doesn't really matter, right? And as I say, like, I think it is a fun mechanic. I think it actually like make the game even more fun, like, because it's easy to understand, and every battle is gonna be different. A bunch of useless cards would see a lot of play, because then you're gonna create these unique scenarios.
Yeah.
So, but I'll give one example of, look at the rule set, like back to basics.
Yep.
Right. So in that rule set in particular, there is a lot of number crunching, right? That you you want to choose the cards that is kind of like the most cost effective, let's say, right? Because like you don't even care about abilities anymore. You just care about number and health, right? So, and even though we can do, it's like a trivial calculation for every card, right? Let's say if you check a card with 4 attack and cost 4 mana, okay, it's like 1 attack per mana. That's very easy to do, but it's not easy to do for like 100 of cards in 3 minutes, right? But a bot could do that. So that's one type of example, like that the complexity, it is a complex thing for us humans to calculate in aggregate, like, again, like, but for the bot it's not. So that's just to illustrate, you see, like, that's an increase in complexity that it's good for the bots and is bad for the humans. And for example, now if we had a filter that, for example, gave us, okay, order my cards by damage per mana, now we basically back at the same level as the bot, right? Because like with a filter like that, the filter is basically doing this number crunching for us, right? And we still have the 3 minutes to decide.
There's one more piece in there that, with this example, that would probably build out the idea a little closer, because you're right, in the rule set you're describing, which is back to basics, often it does boil down to damage per mana. You're right, that would be a really helpful filter. But you could also imagine that a bot is capable of tracking damage per mana with a secondary filter of maximum hit points too. So it's like actually something more like most hit points and damage for the least mana. And that that complex next level is like is where the real for if this was just a human to human game, you have of course card selection is the most important sort of variable. But a very close second is the capacity, or maybe even first, actually, depending, because if you're totally useless, you don't know at all what to pick, you're going to lose even if you have an amazing deck. But, it's a very close second at minimum, the capacity to navigate that. Like, so within this rule set, within this mana cap, I need to discern whether I can whether way more hit points is going to allow me to win it, because meat shields that don't attack sometimes allow you to win those rule sets. And so it's like this weird balance of even with that back to basics rule set, which is the most pared down version of the game, you still have that dual challenge of hit points as well as damage. And I think computers can sometimes do that so well. So even if we had filters, we would need that second level. I just thought that'd be worth mentioning.
Yeah. I mean, you are right, but my point is that it's simple enough that sure, maybe you don't need just one filter. Maybe we need to sort, like maybe we need to have the damage multiplied by HP, right? Or again, like damage per mana or HP per mana. But my point is like, okay, you have I'm just trying to say that you need, if you have these tools in your tool belt, you can kind of, you see, like you're using the computer power to like digest the information for you, and then because now you have like 3 minutes, you're basically on par with the machine. But to be honest, my point is like, in this case, I don't think back to basics would be a good rule set to have, exactly because of this, and that's what I used in my video, the example about tactics, because tactics is exactly that. The computer is never gonna make a mistake, because like all the cards are on the board, right? Everything is open now, and you don't have all the rule sets, like you know exactly what's happening. You just need to calculate very few like possibilities, like where you're gonna put the abilities on the tactics. So that's why I'm not a big fan of the tactics. It's the bots are never gonna make a mistake, and the humans will.
Interesting. That's kind of, I would say that's like almost a separate conversation, because I love that and I want to talk about that. But I would say that not necessarily. I think the argument has been made, and I don't know that it's right or wrong. I actually just want to talk about it. That it actually adds complexity, and it's like this other layer of analysis that you have to also get right. So now you have the first team, you have team creation, which is like buying your deck or renting your deck. You have team selection, which is the implementation within the rule sets and the mana cap, and doing that optimally. And then the third layer, the tactics. You're saying that the tactics, they're never going to get it wrong because it's too simple.
Yeah, I'm saying it's the wrong type, because it's the wrong type of complexity. My point is like, look, like just, I don't know if you can go to any match that has a tactic. Like, let's use some,
maybe I could
like
pick
Avina, right? Like let's say like just, you're probably never gonna give speed anyway. So let's say you want to give heal. So now you can only give heal to at max 12 monsters, right? Let's assume you're not even gonna give heal to your opponent, right? So all the computer needs to do is calculate, okay, like if I give heal to the first position, if I give heal to the second position, if I give heal to the third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So see, like it just needs to calculate 6 options, right? And okay, sure, there's still some RNG in the match, so like you run every simulation 100 times. So you see, like you just need to simulate 6 times 100 games, which is 600 games. That's my point. Like,
yeah,
all you need to do is simulate 600 games, and the computer can do that in 1 second. Okay, perfect. Like, so okay, like a cane, right? So here probably like you see there's no sneak, there's no whatever. So you're not even gonna give lookout probably. Like, so now you just need to calculate who to give the ambush to. But that's my point. Like,
yeah,
the computer is never gonna make the mistake, because at my point, like it can just test every option. But you as the human, like, man, how often I make this mistake? Like, oh man, I forgot because like there is a slow on the other team, and now my guy attacked first, and then I hit the armor, and then oh yeah, I screwed up. So you see that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
I do. I see what you're saying. Yeah, interesting.
Maybe.
Go ahead.
Well, just to finish.
Yep.
Maybe when they have items and spells and everybody has tactics, now you now I think that could work, because now you're back to like all these like predictions what the other people are gonna do. But I'm just trying to say fundamentally, I think it's the wrong type of complexity, even though it's fun, and that's what I keep like trying to highlight, which is kind of sad, but that's at least in my opinion, and the idea of the video there is like you just need to embrace that, like sure, some mechanics are really fun, man, like shooters, like people love shooters, right? Like and here I'm come say we shouldn't make shooters, like so yeah, it's kind of sad, but I still think we have a lack of options, a decent scope to create videos, to create games.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I would say one sort of counterpoint or consideration is that, and I think you would agree that if we made a game that was primarily focused around the human, the most complicated decision trees for computers to make, and the ones that humans are most sort of capable of succeeding at. If the game was that, so that most of the challenges or the victories or the complexity was really leaning into human thought, then I would argue you could introduce things that were occasionally, especially tactics would be an example, where occasionally they're going to, it's this extra layer on the cake, and as long as the main cake is built around, you know, the best practices or the best approaches for human thoughtfulness as opposed to computer thoughtfulness, I think you probably could add on things like tactics that probably, you're right, are going to be simple enough that a computer really is never going to get it wrong. But really, if the base game is complex for them to think through, then they're probably not going to be the successor that built the right team to utilize the tactics in the way that you yourself can. Because again, it's like two steps of complexity. And the second, you're right. I think, as I hear you describe it, this tactics side is far more simple, even if it is. Like the legendary Lorcus, we saw two different rule set or modifiers that are tandems. So it was like, I should pull it up, affliction and
affliction and life leech, and then trample and fury. Yeah,
which is theoretically more complex, but yeah, still, you know.
Man, how many mistakes are you gonna make with this summoner? It's gonna be crazy. Like. Like, I mean, when I say mistake, like how many matches that you could technically win, but you just didn't see in time, right? Or But I think you're 100% right in back about the mechanics. Like, sure, you can make a shooter, for example, as long as that's in the layer that doesn't influence the integrity of the game, right? Like, so let's say, like, maybe you have this city builder with the resource gathering stuff, and that's the crypto part, but then you get the items and you go like in the FPS with a cooperation with your friends. That's completely fine, because the point now with the FPS is just to have fun. It's not the competition that people care about the ranks, or that it's actually like generating tokens or whatever. So yeah, I actually think this is the way. I think you're completely right. Like, you can mix these games where they fit, but we just need to we just have a narrow scope on the crypto side, let's say.
Interesting. Yeah, I really like that, and I think it's not even exactly what we're talking about is not even it's not even do A, B, or C and then everything will be perfect. It's actually a difference of approach in thoughtfulness, and it's like it's trying to create a conversation and an acknowledgement that there is a way for computers to be overpowered or really perfectly successful or better, or like to predispose their success over humans, and there's a way to predispose human success over computers. And if we recognize that reality and our personal strengths over the computers, we can lean into that. If that thesis or that sort of statement is like understood and let's just, even there's a curiosity around it, then the future game design can have that in mind and be like, well, you know, is tactics going to be, you know, a place of player agency over computers, or is it going to be, you know, a computer focused thing? And then you can weigh it like we just did. We could say, well, you know, tactics might be more computer focused or allow them to have one more edge on us, but if the core game mechanic, right? So it's really more of a, I thought this is so important because it's like just this ongoing conversation that I think can speak into the way that the game goes forward. That's what I thought when I heard your video, and so I was really glad you covered that. I'd love to talk. Well, did you have any other thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to emphasize that again, I think you got the idea right, that the games need to be designed, like the whole crypto game needs to be designed basically from the ground up with all of this in mind. Again, that the whole, like, the economy needs to be stable, they need to be able to handle bots, cheaters, and everything. Mm-hmm. And that's why, for example, I'm a bit skeptical with something like Arcade Colony, which the whole pitch is that to bring Web 2 to Web 3, but that completely tramples this idea, right? That the game is designed from the ground up to be Web 3. So, like, if you just bring like a random Web 2 game, but let's look at like the Mooncard thing. Like again, I want to be optimistic, but I don't see how you wouldn't be absolutely botted, cheated to death. Like I don't see any way around it.
Yeah, I actually see your point there. And so the interesting thing about that is, this is a different conversation, but it's obviously the same. It's an extension of the first conversation, but I think the interesting thing about games that are and can be botted, and even in allowing finance within them, there can be like significant longevity to such a game. Like Splinterlands has been 5 years in the making, and bots have been here for probably, I would think, 4 years, meaningfully 3 years, maybe, meaningfully. Now, you might argue that the bots are really eroding what the game has become or has been, and they've been really a place like a negative. I think a lot of people would agree with that statement, and I probably would too. But at the same time, maybe there are, you know, is it, you know, not every game lasts 20 years. Not every game is successful for, you know, 10 years. Not every game is even 5 years. Like, I mean, I actually just loaded, I don't know if you watched Fallout, the TV series on Amazon, but I did. I really enjoyed it. It's quite a success right now. And because of that, I've been playing Fallout 4 again, which is like, yeah. Are you into the Fallout series?
No, I mean, I follow the game dev, the team. Bethesda. He has a YouTube channel and he talks a lot about game dev. Yeah. But I'm not a. Okay. I didn't play all the games. No.
Well, I guess my point is just that not every game is a classic that's going to be here in 20 years. And what if a game like Mooncards comes along and it has like a fun run of 2 years and people do want to extract from it and they are getting pretty decent ROIs? Maybe, I don't know. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I'm just saying, and yes, it is bottable, and yes, people do that, and that probably does. I think you could probably make a decent argument that Splinterland's last bull run was in part at least a result of bots. And what I mean is, we had hundreds of thousands of accounts that were playing, that were signing up and that were buying cards and that were, getting into the game. And that sparked a great amount of excitement around the game, which brought more human players to the game. And all of that created real speculative, like bubbliness around card prices as well as assets. Now, ultimately, that led into a really significant down market, a bear market, which we're still experiencing. as those accounts began to dwindle, as different game implementations sort of affected either bot farms or even lower level play, which really, when we were affecting lower level play, we were actually trying to affect bots, generally speaking. So all of there's been this like pruning effect, but I think it's a reasonable statement to make that part of the success we experienced in the last bull market was a product of the bottableness of the game Splinterlands. And I'm not saying ultimately that's long-term good. I'm just saying, because you make the point, games like Mooncarts, you're skeptical because of how bottable they are. What about what I'm saying, where it doesn't have to be here in 20 years for it to be interesting and exciting for a season? And also, even if it is bottable, does that not mean that there's potentially an army of people that could queue, or at least an army of accounts that could get involved chasing after certain in-game resources? And don't you think that would have a speculative sort of craze to it, or a FOMO element? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. People do that on purpose, actually. So if you look at, I mean, just other crypto games, I think the biggest bot example was one game called Alien Worlds, which had like, I don't know, like millions, billions, I don't even recall, but like some absolute huge amount of numbers of bots, because the game was basically like just clicking a button. It was in the WAX blockchain. I mean, actually, I think it still is. Even with all but like, look at, I think, man, there's so many YouTube channels that like bought their viewers, like Twitch channels, Twitter accounts, Instagram followers. So yeah, like getting bots to hype up your thing, right? So at the point that if people don't know if the hype is real because of the humans or the bots, it doesn't matter, because it kind of makes it real, right? Like all the humans are gonna see millions of people playing the game. I mean, people quotes, right? Like all the bots playing the game, and then all the humans are gonna come there, and then the game still thrive. But then it's kind of it's following this like boom and bust, because again, it's kind of like this fake, and it's just say like, sure, that, so something like Mooncarts, can it work like that? Sure. But especially because like even like developing bots to actually like start extracting for real, it takes a while, and also you need to justify the price, right? Like you don't need to, like, to be honest, I don't even think a lot of the good bot makers are even like bothering with crypto, because they're botting games like World of Warcraft or RuneScape or whatever that probably make them even more money, even though it's Web 2, even though it's against the terms of service. It's so popular, right? Like, I don't know, like League of Legends has like 100 billion people playing, so you can still probably like make more money than with like these tiny games like Splinterlands, Alien Worlds, or whatever. And actually, that's what I was gonna, like, if Splinterlands gets like hyped for, let's say, like, I don't know, they release in the current state of the game, and they release land, and things go absolutely nuts, like they do the whole marketing thing, man, I would bet the bot problem would be like 10 times worse. It would be crazy, because now it actually justify like running the bots. Because right now, like, to be honest, it's not even like that profitable. Like, just like as a human, like, I don't know, people are making like cents. It's not even like, if you compare it to games like World of Warcraft, like I think people make like $50 per day. Like a bot can make like $50 per day, and in Splinterlands, like, what, it's gonna make a few cents.
Is that right? I didn't know that people were still doing World of Warcraft, real game, real money trading or whatever. Look at this.
Yeah, it's massive, man.
Look at this. Alien Worlds, even to this day, in the last 24 hours, daily volume 136,000. And the balance, I don't actually know what balance is. It says total fiat value of assets in DApp smart contracts. So there's $2.1 million in DApp smart contracts within Alien Worlds. And everybody, I've never played this game, but I've heard so much kind of negativity toward how it just isn't a game. It's like a, it's you click and that's it. And I don't know, maybe people feel that way about Splinterlands, but of course that's not how I feel. But this is a lot of money. And then you go Splinterlands and we're like daily volume $412, at least according to this. I don't know how that sounds.
But you cannot trust this because Splinterlands is basically off chain.
Okay.
All like when you're trading cards on the market, it's basically off chain. Like there's no way that this. I mean, in theory they could track that, but like it's very specific to Splinterlands. So I'm pretty sure they would just track like I don't know, the SPS BNB on the Binance Smart Chain, like something like that. That's if you look at Peak Monsters, you can see the volume is a lot higher than that.
Yeah, this might be.
If you go to the.
This might just be like, this could be as simple as maybe credits being purchased, or it would be one dimension. It's not going to be the card sales. You're right, because I mean, even if we go into
if you go to the dashboard there,
dashboard
Explore if you go to Explore again,
market history dashboard.
Oh no, a dashboard. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so if you scroll down a little bit, market. So you'll see like 500,000 in the last month. Yeah. So
and even if you went to buy cards and you looked at a specific legendary, you're going to see today alone, like, because you can look at actually like what, because you could get granular and see that, like, look at this, where $29,000 yesterday, 2 days ago, and $17,000 yesterday, and that's pretty standard. So yeah, good catch on that. But I guess still, on my point really is like, I'm trying to come back to the idea that like games that aren't necessarily, really successful quote unquote games, or, aren't necessarily, doing anything or anything meaningful to avoid bots. Like, this game's been around for a while. It's been, I think it might predate. Does it predate Splinterlands? I actually don't know. I know nothing about it, but I know that
it's definitely around the same time. It's quite old. I mean, I haven't looked at. I remember playing similar when I started playing Splinterlands.
So
because I was just testing multiple games, and this was one of them, and Splinterlands was another.
So maybe it might sound like I'm saying we shouldn't care about bots because games like this have existed, and that's not my point. But I guess I'm just saying it's interesting to really step back and for a moment, I want Splinterlands to be a game where it's human to human. I want Splinterlands to be a game where I can enjoy the gameplay. I want it to be here for many years. I think it could be, and all that stuff. And but it's just interesting to then step back from those personal desires and be like, what if none of that happened? What if it was overridden by bots? What if it was, I still think you could make an argument that while that might not be optimal from a player game's perspective, that it could still persist. And if that is so, and if Alien Worlds is an example of that, maybe that speaks to not necessarily the likelihood of Arcade Colony and maybe Moon Carts, which these things are definitely bottable. You're right. Like, it's just a precision racer. Like, yeah, that's bottable. Maybe it leaves room or gives hope to the potential for something like this to persist, thrive. And again, not every title needs to be around for 20 years for it to be a success. An amazing game might last, a few years. And then, like we said, the excitement that happens, or the FOMO, let's be more clear, that happens when a crazy number of accounts sign up and the transactions per day go wild, and it's maybe months later we discern that, well, that was really just bot activity. But in the middle of those sorts of moments, we don't discern that, and it starts this, like you said, with content creators, etc. They know that, they lean into that, and they, by way of like sort of automating responses, comment section, etc., likes, all that stuff, they farm that stuff. And I'm not saying that's a good approach. I'm just saying people do it because why? It actually draws eyeballs. And so, it's this weird thing of optimally, I would love a certain gaming experience, but financially, I understand that it's not always the optimal game experience isn't necessarily required for the financial side to be real. But hopefully both can happen. Financial reality or opportunity can exist while it being fun, and that to me would be the two pieces of a perfect game.
Yeah, but I think, as you say, like if you just do like a ponzi-nomics thing, yeah, that works, but it's gonna crash. And the thing with Arcade Colony, if everything's under the same umbrella, then it's a problem, because like you can have a game like, let's say, Axie Infinity, like it was a Ponzi, they said it was a Ponzi, everybody knows a Ponzi, but like no one, people just accept that it's a Ponzi when it's crashed. Until it crashes, everything's like, everybody says like it's a genius, like okay, they solved the money making machine, the money tree, right? And if you create like one game and then go to maybe like the same people go but like create another game kind of a different company, a different thing, that kind of works. But I don't know if you can release like Ponzi after Ponzi after Ponzi like under the same umbrella. I don't know. My bet is after the third time people will catch on. I might be wrong. Maybe it is fine. Maybe it does work. You just have a bunch of these like hype games that last 6 months and then die.
Yeah, I don't know.
And, yeah, sure.
I don't know, work. And I don't want. I don't even want that. But I'm just. To me, it's more of like a thought experiment around, you know. I think economics. I find economics interesting, and that's part of why I like Splinterlands, because there's economics and tokenomics that are wrapped up in it, and I find the study of economics is so complicated, where people often feel like if we just put A plus B, we would get C, or you know, like with example, like so like a real world economics example. Often traditional economists will argue that in times of financial turmoil, it makes a lot of sense to quote unquote stimulate the economy by pumping money into the economy. That's what governments do around the world. They've done it for decades, and this is a very standard approach. Like if the stock market starts to fall, especially if it's like lower than 20% from where it was, that's like a quote unquote recession. And then what we do is we lower interest rates so that the companies can borrow money and then grow their company, and as well as we print new money to invest in stock buybacks, etc. It's this one approach, and it's really governed by like certain parties in control. And the thing about that approach is that those people think they're smarter than everyone else at the table, and they think that if they make the right choices, then they can control, they can benefit the economic system as a whole. And to some extent, Splinterlands is doing the same thing with their own approach to how SPS is issued, or how vouchers are issued, or how, you know, which projects, even like, you know, which sets of cards are we going to release, how many of them we're trying to be humans that control the economy in a way that allow, you know, maximum growth. And I actually believe we human beings are so clueless about the complicated nature of economic systems. And I'm saying that this touches on the bot issue. It's like, you know, I don't know. And I hear you, and you're right. And you know, we look at Ponzi's and we say, you know, during the middle of the success, you think it could never fail. And then at the end of it, it's so obvious that it would always fail. And that's the strange thing about economic systems. They're so complicated, we don't really see the end of them, or even how we make them go from beginning to success. It's such there's so many unintended consequences along the way as we manipulate, you know, one piece of the picture or another. I find that interesting.
Yeah, but when I think with Splinterlands in particular, I think we're kind of close. I think there is a good system in place that address all of this you're talking about. So we do. There is a DAO. There is like a voting systems in place, and we have this multi-layer game. Like, so we have like land, right? You can produce. I mean, I'm talking in theory, right? Like, but in the vision, right, you have the land where you produce stuff, and then you use that in the game, and then you have the everything with the nodes, right, like operating, and like that's good. I think that it's very close to working, and actually that's one of the reasons I'm trying to help, like making the YouTube videos about Splinterlands, because yeah, I mean, if I had like no hope for Splinterlands, I wouldn't even be here. I would just like peace out and like. But yeah, I think it's and even the foundation. Talk about bots again. I think the foundation for because like Splinterlands, I think has like the battle rule sets is very good foundation in my opinion for tackling the bots. But like, I mean, they wouldn't get right at the first time, right? And then I mean, the game has been basically the same for 4 or 5 years, right? So I think if they start updating with these things in mind, but then again, like who am I, or who are we? I would say like I don't know, I wouldn't want to put myself in Matt's shoes, right? Like, because we have like all these people, myself included, right? And give you all these ideas, and like maybe he's like, yo guys, I got this. Yes, like shut up, let me work. I don't know if sometimes I feel like, am I helping or am I actually like hurting, like distracting?
I agree.
But I feel I'm helping, so I'm gonna keep doing, but until told otherwise. But
yeah, I agree, and I think that's worth, you know, saying out loud, because it's like there are so many. I mean, even when I go out, you go with like, picture a night out with your friends. You got 6 or 10 of your buddies out there, and it's like, let's go see a movie, and you look like you're too young to remember, but like when I would go to a Blockbuster Video or to like a rental place, a video rental place.
Yeah, I'm 34.
Okay. So you'd walk in there with your buddies or your family or whatever, and you'd be like, let's get a movie. And you'd have an idea, and they'd have an idea, and they hate your idea, and you hate their idea. And then that's 2 people. Picture 10 of those competing interests. And it's so challenging to find a movie that most are going to enjoy. And that's just a movie. With a game design, there's the visual art depiction. There's the tokenomics side once you look into blockchain stuff. There's the gameplay being satisfying, rewarding. And there, within each of those realms of consideration, there's some people that are gonna want it to go one direction, and others that are gonna want it to go in an entirely opposite direction. And I said recently on a video, I can't remember which video it was, but I was talking to somebody, and I think I was talking, anyways, it's not just that, you know, if we were to change something within Splinterlands, that we could fix pieces of the problem. And maybe like that's probably real. We could alter certain things and make it better. I think that's real. But here's the problem. Every alteration affects some people in a way that they are going to dislike. So if you keep things static, you know, you have probably some attrition in terms of some people just leaving because it's just the same, and they get bored and they leave. Probably you have some people just coming because they discover it and they try it. I would argue that probably attrition is greater than new player acquisition. So static is pretty much a negative. You want to change, but then as you change, what happens? Is any change ever 100% approved of? No. With every single change, no matter how small or big, you are going to offend certain participants, and they are going to either leave or complain. And with the town halls, and with the DAO contributions, and with the YouTube Splinterlands content creators having a voice, etc., there is so many cooks in the kitchen. and there's so many, and I think about what you said, like, am I even helping? Is this just white noise that is making it more complicated? I hope I'm not. And I really do hope, that we are able to help, curate the voice that allows the optimized changes with an acknowledgement that there is never a perfect choice. There never is. There's always unintended consequences. There's a famous economist, he says, forgetting his name right now, he says there's no perfect choices. Everything has its unintended consequences, and it's just like a choice between alternatives. And I think that's so true. And I think as we look at Matt and the team and what they're doing, and they're trying their best, it's so important that we remember that, because it's like, especially when SPS is plummeting or falling down, I don't know about plummeting, but falling, people get so salty. And I get it, money's on the line, but he's got us here. He's led us to this place. He's a human being, by the way. And like, the more we crap on him and the team, the harder it is for them to just come back and do more. I don't know. I that's one thing I wish I could help with, if nothing else, to really just dial down the salt and get it to a place of like, if we could get our attitude toward a place of like general optimism, not just based on nothing, not just let's be positive for positive sake, but like, we've been here for so long. We've survived bear markets before. Matt has, led us well to this point. There's lots of things they've done right, even if they've done many things wrong. If we just generally come at it from that perspective, I think we're in a better place mentally and emotionally, and from a community standpoint.
That's what I think. Being able to fork the game would be so important, and at face value might seem that's weird, right? Because like forking, almost maybe people think like, oh, so you don't like the direction of the game and you want to do something else, and that's just one facet of it. A lot of the times it's just like, let's say, just try something different, right? Like you let's say you wouldn't fit the game. Let's say you like the Splinterlands the game, and you like, the team says, we're not gonna do PvE, for example. Why just do like something like Splinterforge, like do like a spin-off with a PvE, right? And but you see, like the Splinterforge, they basically almost like need to do everything from scratch because they cannot fork the game properly. Yeah. And I think with the ability to fork the game also reduces almost like the pressure on the team, because right, like if somebody has this idea, or if they're like, no, please, it's almost like the team can say like, sure, go fork it yourself. Yeah. Literally, like and this happens a lot. So for example, Linux, which is the most common operational system in the planet, I would say, at least because it runs on every server. Like there's a billion of forks of Linux, right? And a lot of the times, like one fork makes something like pretty cool, and then the other forks go and kind of copy them as well, right? So I think Splinterlands or any other crypto game would benefit a lot from that, because like if some people say, let's say like Splinterforge go and fork the game and make this PvE system, and they're like, oh, actually this worked really well, why don't we do exactly the same here? Yeah. So that's my point. I honestly, I still don't know why they don't fully open source the game. I'm starting to see a few other crypto games popping here and there that are going like full open source. But yeah, Splinterlands, they kept teasing about this, but yeah, it has been like 5 years, and at least the battle and a lot of the structure is still closed sourced.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds exciting to me. Like, you're right, open source technology allows the iteration of other minds, and then you don't necessarily. So one of the things that happens right now, even with something like Arcade Colony, where theoretically there's lots of voices that can come in and manipulate or add to that ecosystem. You have to have, there's like an active pursuit of partnership that makes sense. So, you know, whether it's Aggroed or the team that have to go out and find developers that want to move over towards creating toward the arcade colony and thereby making excitement. That's an active or intentional choice that somebody needs to drive. You could conceive of a path to partnership through open sourced, tech and they're forking technology, blockchain technology that would allow you to bring on new partnerships without any sort of pursuit or voice or effort. Like it's like you said, Splinter Forge. Yep. If they could just literally, use the game starting point, they didn't need to like maybe from scratch. I'd love to hear Phoenix's comment on that. Or I know it's Splinter. I forget the guy. I think it's Phoenix. Splinter Forge.
Yeah. I think he ran with two names, Phoenix and Rare Raptor, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'd love to hear his thoughts on that too. But yeah, I mean, because I don't think the secret sauce for Splinterlands having a game of success is really in, keeping their gaming experience proprietary, but I actually think it's in their own creativity on building out their world, building out their vision. So new card pack additions, or new, promo cards, or new, art style, or new, all of that is something they could control, even if this game was forkable by another entity. And while somebody could fork it today and capture everything that would be theoretically present here now, they wouldn't necessarily carry forward with the same vision, and it would become this own distinct thing from that point forward. That's a fun idea. I haven't really heard many people talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's important because a lot of the times, I mean, all of these examples I told you before, but I think it's also good to bring new players, because another use case is, let's say, maybe people like the game, but they don't like the theme. Maybe Battle Mages is not their like cup of tea. They want I don't know, dinosaurs or whatever, you name it, right? Like, so you could have a fork of Splinterlands, but it's with dinosaurs, right?
Yeah.
And then you have this other team doing this market for the dinosaur game, but then people would eventually, like, let's say they find about the game from the dinosaur, but they know that it's a fork of Splinterlands, and then they're like, oh, actually, I personally like the Battle Mages better, so I'm gonna go to Splinterlands. Yeah. And as I said, like, everything is gonna be slightly different. So say, oh, actually, like, okay, now they're focused more on this land stuff. Yeah, that's more what I like, so I'll go there. So yeah, you kind of have these branches of different ideas that you can leverage.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, and I would consider that an exciting sort of update, or not update, but like a way of approaching how they've already approached it. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything, like there's lots of other things I'd love to talk about, but I'm starting to feel like I got to go check on my one daughter's homesick today, so I probably should wrap up here. I would love to have you come back and chat more about different things. Like, I mean, even we didn't talk about Lorcus. He's brand new, or he's coming soon. We didn't talk about the recent release of the last Rebellion Legendary with the charge function.
I have Venka.
Cool. Yeah. Venka. And I also have really interesting thoughts, and I'd love to hear your thoughts really around the Mage Wagon system and the future evaluations of Rebellion. But you know what? I think we're going to have to postpone some of that for another time. Did you have anything?
Yeah, sure.
Did you have anything that you, any final thoughts? And by the way, I'd love for you to talk about the channel before we go. Let people know. What is your like routine, or are you weekly content? Are you daily content? And do you talk about more than Splinterlands as well? Let us know.
Yeah, so on my channel, I mean, I want to talk about crypto games in general, but I don't have any formal routine. Like some days I'll release like three videos in one day, and sometimes I'll be like 1 week without. Because now mostly I'm basically practicing, right? So to like speak clearly in front of the camera. And I'm preparing, like I'm still choosing like how I'm gonna do like the video formats, if I'm gonna do any editing, or if I do like everything in a single take with like this kind of like PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
So I'm still playing around, but yeah, I'm doing with Splinterlands mainly just because that's a game that I basically know inside out, and I think I have things to add and again hopefully help like I told before.
Yeah.
But my goal is to go like any crypto game in general. Like my website is called like Games on the Block, right? Like so it's any game. It's not like Splinterlands in particular. So
Love it.
yeah, but okay, you?
I want to pull it up. I know you gave it to me earlier. Here, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Comments. On this video I cited it, so details. There it is. Boom.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can see yeah, if you plug there, most of the videos are gonna be
were
I
on
don't
People's
think
Guild? Did you do a People's
Yeah.
Guild? Oh, cool.
Yeah, I did a couple of weeks ago, I would say 3 weeks ago. Yeah, it was really cool.
I'll make sure that's in the description.
Yeah, but yeah, mostly just I'm gonna be talking about like crypto games in general, and again, because I'm developing as well, I will when the games are ready, I'll focus more on my games in particular. But yeah,
Cool.
for now, mainly Splinterlands.
Cool, love it. Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation, and thanks for making the time. And yeah, I mean, we should do it again sometime soon. And there's always I've been feeling like really overwhelmed by the number of things that I'm carrying, like just with family, and so my content has been like down. But it's great to just come on and chat with somebody like yourself and just go see where it goes. And 2 or 3 big topics in there. And so thank you for making the time today. And yeah, I just hope you'll come back another time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it there, but thank you so much for your time and attention. I hope you're having an amazing day, and make sure you check out Games on the Block, and the link will be in the description. And yeah, thanks, guys. Bye for now.